Hi, I'm doing a quick video on tension and hope to answer a couple questions on how to get better consistency with your stitches. I'm going to assume that you already know how to do basic stitches. I'm going to assume that you know the anatomy of your stitches, and I'm going to address some of the common mistakes or just not really well-known points to consider when making your stitches. Alright, so currently I am making single crochets, and I am working into a row of already established single crochets on a project I've already established. So the best way to get your tension to be more consistent, in its most simple terms, is to make your stitches the exact same way. I try to maintain the same tension by stranding my yarn in the same way every time. I use my middle finger, my ring finger, and my thumb to control the fabric that I'm working into. I try to support the back side of the piece that I'm working into, so that way I have something to push my needle into to make it easier. The less I fight the fabric, the less I deform the stitches I'm working into and the neighboring stitches, and the less I deform the loop of the stitch I'm trying to create. The next thing to consider is that when I do my single crochets, I do not allow it to be free when I make the stitches. As you can see, this stitch turned out much bigger than the neighboring single crochets, and it's because all of that movement caused by me trying to work the stitch subtly pulls the yarn and adjusts my tension and enlarges the loops that happen. So I normally put my finger and anchor it, and then I use my thumb to move the hook back and forth. I yarn over, pull up a loop, and then I anchor both the loops when I yarn over and draw through two. This sets my stitches up to be stable. The loops don't grow and they don't shrink due to the movement of my hands as I work the stitch. If you do the exact same thing, you're going to get the exact same size of a loop and the exact same size of a resulting stitch all the way across. I'm going to demonstrate the next aspect, which is making stitches other than single crochet. So when you make a stitch other than single crochet, I have to do a front post double crochet here. This is a really good place to demonstrate what I'm talking about. I trap the loop against my hook so that it cannot grow or shrink. I wrap and I tighten it up against the loop. I set them next to each other. And it doesn't seem like much, but if you make some of your stitches like this, and you make some of your stitches wraps like this, there is more yarn eaten up when you allow your stitches to gap like this, especially if you're going to do taller stitches. If you don't control your stitches, you end up with a much more open stitch. Which can be difficult to repeat over and over again unless you're doing the same size yarn over when you do your stitches. I don't like doing that because what ends up happening is this loop right here, the top of the double crochet, ends up borrowing slack from the base of the stitch from when you drew through to anchor it. It borrows it and it grows this part of the stitch, which causes a very open section versus the rest of the tighter stitches that I have created, and it gives a visual inconsistency. I avoid that by seating my yarn over up against the previous loop, because that is a repeatable distance that can be done. When I yarn over and draw through, I use my index finger to move the loops as close to the head so that now all 3 wraps are together. I yarn over, draw through 1, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Now this produces a more tight stitch. There's a lot less drape to it. And it's not the only way to make your stitches. I'm just showing that I do it in a way that I can consistently reproduce. It's not the only way to do double crochets. You'll see videos where they wrap, they anchor, they draw up a loop, but instead of keeping their needle down, they draw it up equal to the loop here. And there's nothing wrong with that. It actually produces a very soft density. It feels lush. It feels squishy. It produces a soft density stitch. And if you consistently make it in the same way, then the tension in that fabric is repeatable, because you're doing it the same way at the same tension. It's repeatable, and that's the biggest key in making your tension more consistent, is the repeatability. So just be more mindful on how you hold your needle, your hook, how you're holding and tensioning your yarn, and then how you are working your stitches. If you are just, chaotic in those sections, it's going to reflect in your fabric.